but if that's not working, let me know and I
Oh
can.
no, like it's easy for me. I just started it, so we're good, and then I can send it your way after.
Perfect.
Okay, so I think what I'll do is I'll share my screen with you and start by, so anyway, if you don't know what an escape room is, right? Like there are physical escape rooms you can go to, or you could prior to restrictions, where you have to solve clues, and you have to solve clues to unlock the next room or unlock a puzzle, and then the next puzzle kind of leads to the next puzzle, and the goal is to escape out of this locked room through solving a series of puzzles. Kind of fun. And so kind of this has been transformed into the digital realm where we can set up digital escape rooms. So the goal is still the same. There's a series of puzzles that students have to solve, and they have to solve each puzzle before moving on to the next puzzle, which kind of brings up some of the pros and cons of digital escape rooms. One of the, I don't know if it's a pro or a con or kind of both, is that, you know, students, unlike, you know, a series of questions, students have to, you know, solve that first one before they can move on to the next question. So I don't use this as an assessment method. You know, I use it as a practice tool, something like that, because students don't get to see all of the questions right up front. So it's great because it is a lot of fun and it adds this element of challenge, but that is just a caution that, you know, I wouldn't replace an assessment with this because, you know, I just don't feel it's quite fair. If they get stuck on the first question, they don't even have the opportunity to move on. So let me share my screen with you. I'll walk you through what it looks like for the students kind of on their end. Okay, so this is one that I set up. It was our Vegas Ultimate Treasure Hunt. For any of the math people, what I did was I just took an existing situational problem, changed the story around it a little bit, and put it into this format. For anybody else, it's a series of clues. You have to solve the clues to get to the end. So if we, let me show it to you looking as a student first. So this is what the students would see when I send them a link. This would be their first page. They do have to enter an email address, and I ask them to enter their WQSB address. If you have Google Classroom set up already, you can connect this with your Google Classroom. I didn't, so I just have them enter their email address. And this just lets me track who's answering the questions and where they are. Yeah, this is in forms. I'll take you through the forms, the actual setup, after I show you just kind of what it looks like on the student end. So then their next page, here's their first challenge. Okay, so they can read through the challenge. You can insert images and graphs and pictures, whatever it is you need to insert here. And then they type in their answer, which I believe was 4F. And yay, they did it, right? So you can kind of make whatever message it is that you want to pop up if they answered correctly. If they don't answer correctly, so let's say I put 4E here instead, they get a message saying, oh no, try again. And again, you can kind of customize this message so you see what the students see. So if they solve this one, then you can go on to the next challenge. And you can make as many of these challenges as you want. And ultimately at the end, you know, they get a message saying, hooray, you finished. Okay. So it really is just a series of questions, and you can set this up however you want. So let me take you into actually setting one of these up now that I think hopefully you understand the structure a little bit. Let's start with, let's just start with a new one. Okay, so here's my Google Drive. I'm going to make a new Google form. And here's what pops up, right? Something untitled. And let's call this just Digital Escape Room. And then we can put whatever we want in the description. This is where, you know, you might set up the context of the question, the context of, you know, they're trapped. In this case, in the last one I showed you, they were going on kind of a treasure hunt in Vegas. In another one, they were trapped in Gatineau Park. So whatever it is you want the scenario to be that they're trying to escape from. Okay. Email address, great. This just makes sure that they have to collect the email address. Brenda, I'm using a Google form, so, you wouldn't have to, if you don't use Google, you could probably sign up for one. Um, I think that you need a Google account to use Google Forms. I don't know, sorry. Graham, thanks. You can use your WQSB account to get access to Google Forms.
Yeah, I can jump in. You guys can message me too, and I'll tell you how to do that if you like.
Amazing, thank you. So then here's question one. When we click on it, you have your option. It can be a multiple choice question. It can be some check boxes, a drop-down menu. You can have students write a whole paragraph if you want to. I set mine up as short answer questions. And then here you would just kind of type in question one, whatever, in the Vegas treasure hunt, each of these were, they had a challenge name. So here, maximizing gaming profits or whatever, right? Like you can kind of type in whatever you want. These three buttons down here are quite important when you're setting up your digital escape room. So if you click on these three buttons, the description allows you to add a description. So add the actual question, right? What question are you asking? What question do you want the students to answer? So clicking on description allows you a place to actually type in what your question is. And response validation is important because this is what Google Forms uses to check the student answers to make sure they're correct before moving on. Otherwise, they could type in anything and move on to the next question, and they wouldn't be told whether they are right or wrong. So these three buttons down here, description and response validations, I check for both of them. And then you can type in a description of the question. If you want to insert a video, right, you could add a video over here. If you want to insert an image, you can do that. Right? Anything that you want to add, you can do kind of through these. Here is where, let's see, short answer text number. So if you want the students to answer as a text, so a word or something, that's great. If it's a number, for me, it was often a number. And then I would click equal to. This just gives you a series of options, right? Is the number greater than, less than, between, not between, right? Whatever it is you need. If you have a text here, contains, doesn't contain. And so this is the way of kind of sorting out what the correct answer is. So equal to, so let's say they had to write 13 here. And then here is where you get to this custom error text. This is where you get to write your response for if they get the answer wrong, right? So this was where I wrote kind of, oh no, try again. But if you want it to be, some other message they get, if they did that question incorrectly, you can type in that. Right? So here's your first question. Here's how you make sure, here's how Google Forms is gonna make sure they get the answer correct. And we're done with this first question. Okay. Yeah, it would be great for hints as well, right? Like you could add, like, check a decimal place, or whatever it is for your subject, right? It doesn't have to be math related. You can put in a text or multiple choice too. So after this, there are a couple of buttons that are important, right? These three dots down here, and then this little equal sign here. So this adds a new section. Okay, so after we're done with question one, these two bars here add a section. And this was where the students got the message that they had done something correct, right? So if we go back to this one, this was where I set up this screen, right? Some kind of congratulatory message that they answered the question correctly and they can move on to the next section. So that would be here. So my second section is going to be a congratulations section. And I added an image as well. Then another new section, right? So you can think of this almost like a PowerPoint, right? And these are the slides that the students are going through. Here's the first one. After they finish this one, here's the second one. We can add another one. And from here, we're going to add a question. Okay, so this little plus right here lets you add a question. Okay, so from my section, my new untitled section, I added a question, so this plus. And now again, I'm back to the place I was for the first question. These 3 dots, description. I'd like it to be a short answer. And then I do response validation as well. Brenda, I'm looking at your, yeah, so this is one that I'm creating from a blank Google form, right? So Google Forms is the format that I'm using to construct this. Right, so it's not like a different website. It's not a particular game. We're kind of setting this up from scratch, where you get to kind of set up whatever you want.
Okay, because I had Googled this type of thing to try it on my own, and you get you don't get it. You get tons of websites of it. I'm like, what are people using? So
exactly. So I'm using Google Forms.
Okay, so if I have a Gmail account, I could just get into that?
Exactly. So if you have a Gmail account and you log into your Drive, right? So you know how, does that make sense? If you log into your Google, you can go to Google Apps, you can go to your Drive.
Okay.
And then from your Drive, you can click on a new form.
Okay. And then the kids have to go through my Gmail account?
No, that's the beauty of this. Yeah, no, the kids are not going through my Gmail account.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll show you how the kids get access to it in just a second. So once you're done, right? So if you can add a new section here, and you can keep repeating this as many times as you want. Adding a new sections, adding a congratulatory message, adding a new section, adding a congratulatory message, until they finally get through, like they answer all of the challenges that you need. Okay. Now, the other, so the question that Brenda was just asking was a really great one. How do the students actually get access to this? And if we go to one that I already created, here we go. What you can do is you can hit send. So once you're done, right, here are all of my questions, all of my kind of congratulations. You know, they finally won, they opened the treasure chest, that was great. If I hit send up here, I did not send it to each individual student. Instead, I gave them a link. So hit send, click on this little link button. I copied the link, and then I sent it to them in Teams. So during one of our online class days, I kind of instructed them that this was what we were doing for the day. And then I put the link in their Teams chat. They followed the link, and they were able to then see this was what they got when they opened the link. This was the first page they got. Okay, so they don't need any of my information except for the link that I send them. And then they work through it. Then one of the nice things is that as they work through it, let me go back here because I don't actually need to send this. I can also see the responses that are coming in. So who's responded? I have their WQSB email accounts, and I can also see kind of the individuals, what they actually wrote in the answers. I could also do it just by question, and it tells me who's kind of what, how many people have answered, right? So 10 people answered for F, so 10 people got it correct. Okay, so it lets me kind of check in and see how they're doing. I have, you know, at this point, for the way that I set it up, they cannot skip questions, right? So that's kind of the benefit and the downside of this Google form, is that the students can't skip questions. So they can't say, oh, I don't know how to answer that one, let's move on to the next one. Because part of the escape room is that they have to get that clue to answer the next clue. And they have to get that clue correct in order to get access to the next clue. So I did this while we were all online together, so that the students, if they were really struggling with one of the challenges, they could send me messages or they could unmute themselves during our class and ask for some hints, and we could help them out along the way. And they could also pair up a little bit and work with each other to solve some of these. So they do have to answer them correct to move on. Now, if you didn't want that, these 3 buttons here where it says response validation, right? You could unclick, and now the students can type in any answer that they want, and they don't have to get it right in order to move on, right? So if you wanted to run, you know, a quiz or something through either an escape room format or just using Google Forms, if you unclick response validation, then the students won't get any information about whether the question they answered was correct or incorrect. Okay. So, you know, they could skip questions, but, you know, when I'm setting it up as an escape room, I don't. So yeah, the form should run linearly. And, you know, that really was all there was to set up my digital escape room. I thought it was going to be a whole lot harder than that, but that's all I did. So I think at this point, I'm going to stop talking. You know, I think we have, you know, 10 minutes or so left. So I'd love to open it up to questions. Is there anything I can clarify? I know I walked you through that a little quickly, but, you know, let me know how I can help, what questions I can answer, or at least attempt to answer.
Hi, Kate. Kate. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing wonderful. So I have a question here. Can you just look at, oh, by the way, thank you. This is amazing. I just love everything about it. And I'm pretty sure in the French classes is going to be extremely helpful. And I will share with my French department for sure. And this is Chanel talking.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So the question I have, can you just look at the progress of the kids, of the students while they're working on it, or you have to wait until they submit before you can just see the progress of their work?
That is a good question. I'm trying to remember. I've just run this once. I think that I didn't see their responses until they submitted everything.
Okay.
Although I'm not 100% sure, right? So it's a little different than, I know Tasha's running Socrative next, kind of a lesson in how to build Socrative. And Socrative is really great because you can see the progress of the students as they're working on it. So not kind of set up like a digital escape room, but you can see in Socrative, you can see. So if that's something that you're looking for, hang on for 10 minutes and she's at you.
All right, thank you, Kate.
Yeah.
Kate, if I can, it's really, really cool. You described it as kind of like the choose your own adventure books. So in those kind of formats, there's usually like a couple of different streams that branch off and they can like rejoin in certain areas. Is it possible to do that where you get like certain answers can lead you to the same room, or is it always like kind of they take one stream and they end up going?
You know, I love the way you're thinking. Is there a way you could do that? Not that I know, like my understanding is that like it's like a linear question,
it's
right?
Purely
so,
linear. We cannot branch into things that like two separate branches coming together.
Right.
Can't happen.
But like I wonder if you could kind of in this set up, so like my question 2 might be
may I answer to that? May I answer to that?
Please do.
Yes, through the branching, you can do that. For example, if I understand well your question, Louis, it's Marilyn Bourdi talking. I'm sorry. When you do, for example, you do your first section, and the student has the right answer to the first section, and you want to send them because they don't need to do the second and the third. You want to send them to the fourth. Yes, you can do that with. Google Slide.
Okay.
Oh, excellent! Something to look up.
Yeah. Yes, you can.
Amazing.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll have to kind of play around with that. That's super interesting. Great.
Can I pop in here? It's Brenda.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm doing it on my personal laptop here while I'm looking at your slides. Great, thank you for this. How do I pop in the answer? Because it's not working. I click on.
Tell me what you've done.
So I created a question, and now I just need to put the answer in.
Oh, I see. So if let's start here. So see these 3 buttons down here?
Yep.
Click on them. Have you selected response validation?
No.
Select response validation.
Okay.
And then see how a line pops up and it says number greater than. So you can change number to text or length or whatever you want, right? And the 2 that I used was either kind of number or text.
So text, yeah.
And then here contains, so it means that their answer will have to contain whatever you type in this 3rd box here.
And there, that's the line. Okay. I kept trying to click on short answer text and like nothing's happening. Okay.
Yeah, so this is why kind of these 3 buttons right down here are, the first thing I do is I always activate description and response validation.
Thank you.
For sure.
Hi, it's Colette. I was wondering if I could ask some questions.
Yeah, for sure.
This whole time I keep kind of stubbornly almost staying with Teams just to try to be consistent. I've noticed that when you were putting in the right answer, you could say greater than, less than, between. I really like that idea. I'm not sure that Teams does that. So Graham, if it does, please hop in. But
Don't know.
like I've been making forms and quizzes using Teams, which is pretty similar. But like, is it a default for Google to do 1 question at a time? Because I find in Teams, the kids can go through all the questions. I mean, they tend to do them in order, but like they can go back and change it and do things like that. So like in this format, do they need to finish the first challenge to go on to the second?
So that depends. It depends if you've selected response validation or not.
Oh,
So,
that's what that means. Okay.
exactly. So this means that Teams is going to check it, or sorry, not Teams, that Google is going to check it. And if it's incorrect, they cannot move on. And if it is correct, then they can move on. Otherwise, Google isn't going to check it for you, right? So it's not going to, it'll still give you, you can still go to the individual responses at the end and see kind of who gave what answers, but it won't do kind of a self-check. So for here, you know, I could enter this question and then they can kind of move about a little bit more freely, I believe. But the validation piece is what limits them.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it seems like the Google form kind of allows you to accept a wider range of answers.
I think yes and no. If I put in the response validation, if I type in number and contains, then it needs to, the students need to respond exactly as I've typed in that answer. So they have to type in 4F. If they typed in 4 with a lowercase f, they aren't going to get it.
Okay. But
and so
I imagine you could put like couldn't you put in must contain for lowercase f or for uppercase f?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay, no, that's fine. Like, I like the idea of contains because a problem that I ran into is, say the answer is for F, but then the kids will answer in a full sentence, even though it's a math question.
Yes, for sure.
The answer to my question is for F, and now it's defaulted it as a wrong answer.
Yes. Now, to get around that, what I did, let me just show you. Because I was running this like a situational, and I really did want the students to show me their work as well. This was just kind of a fun way to do that. I created a student handout that went along with this that I handed out in class prior to them working on it. It also let me give them the pictures, like the graphs and everything that we were using as a hard copy, so they weren't restricted to looking at these images digitally, right? Like this is a fairly complicated graph. We were doing some graph theory, and then they didn't have to recopy all of these lines because I printed it and I gave it to them ahead of time. And then I gave them the way to write their answer, right? So write your answer with the number of teams followed by the first letter of your teammate's name. For example, 3J. right? So I really was fairly specific with them in how I wanted them to write their answers. Again,
Yeah,
write your
perfect.
answers only using numbers. And so
Yeah,
that's
or
how
like
I
a
got
little
around that.
Yeah, or like a little instruction at the top of how to respond. That's perfect.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I ask a question too?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so did anybody ever try using this with Forms? Microsoft Forms, I mean?
I believe you can do something quite similar. This was kind of the first way that I saw to create a digital escape room. And since I use Google quite often, I was quite familiar with it. But I would guess that you can do something quite similar with Microsoft.
Yeah, I've been trying to do it on the Microsoft Forms alongside with you in this presentation now. But first of all, I couldn't find the response validation option. I know that there is branching and there is restrictions that you could put, but I couldn't put, for example, the message, the hooray message.
Right.
Because the only thing I can add is either a multiple choice, a text, a rating, or a new section. But the message, I didn't know how to put it. And the validation, like I tried, I tested what happens if they put in the wrong answer. It still moves on to the next section, but it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like I'll look around a little bit and see if I can find some instructions for digital escape rooms using Microsoft. But you know, this was, like I said, this was a tool that I'm comfortable with, and so it's what I went with. But I'm sure somebody's done something with Microsoft, so I'll see if I can dig up anything.
Okay, I know that with multiple choices, you can put in a message saying, whoops, try again, for example, but with the short text, it doesn't have that option. You only have to put in the right answer.
Right.
And branching also could work with the multiple choice, but not with the short answer questions.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting. So I think what I'll do is it's 5 after, and I do know that kind of the next one starts at 10:10. So I am going to let you go. I am going to stop this, but I'm around. So if you run into any difficulties, if you're trying this and you want to reach out, please do. And I will also send Graham the link of the video of this, as well as the instructions that I followed, the website that I used, to kind of walk you through this as well. So you have a reference guide.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Of course. Thank you,
Thanks, Kate.
guys.
That was
Thanks for
fun.
joining.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.